Northern New Mexico, late autumn 1876. The wind carried the scent of pine wood smoke and coming winter. Inside a small ranch house tucked against the mountain's edge, a man sat by the fire with a child on his lap. James Cole Sterling was 43 years old. His hands bore the calluses of ranch work, the scars of old battles, the marks of a life rebuilt from ash. The boy, Eli, was 6, small for his age, but sharp-eyed, curious, unafraid. The child shifted, looked up at the man he called father. "Pa, tell me about the night you saved us." Cole's jaw tightened. He stared into the flames, seeing not the present fire but another one, 5 years distant, 5 years that felt like a lifetime. "That wasn't the night I saved you, son." His voice was low, steady, carved from granite. "That was the night you saved me." Eli frowned, not understanding. Cole pulled the boy closer, felt the warmth of him, the realness of him. "Let me tell you how it began." The fire crackled. The world outside grew dark, and the past rose up like smoke, taking shape, taking form, becoming real again. Northern New Mexico, October 1871, 5 years earlier. The cabin stood alone in a gully, hidden from the main trails by dense pine and scrub oak. It had no name on any map. No road led to its door. It existed in the way forgotten places exist, known only to those who built it and those who were trapped inside. Smoke rose first, not the clean gray of chimney smoke, but the black, oily plume of something dying. The walls had caught. The roof thatch, bone dry from months without rain, ignited like kindling. Flames crawled up the support beams, hungry, relentless, turning wood to carbon, carbon to ash. Inside, a woman screamed. Elena Ashford was 24 years old. She had been 22 when she married. 22 when she realized marriage was just another word for cage. For 2 years, she had lived in this cabin with a man who called himself her husband, but treated her like property. No visitors, no letters, no way out unless he unlocked the door. Tonight, he was not here. The men who came were not here for her. They were here for him, for Silas Murdoch, for the debts he owed and the lies he told. When they did not find him, they tore the cabin apart. When they found nothing worth taking, they set it ablaze. They did not check the back room. They did not know about the woman. They did not care. Elena held her son against her chest. Eli was 5 months old. He did not cry. He never cried much. As if he had learned, even at this age, that silence was survival. The heat pressed in from all sides. Smoke filled her lungs. She stumbled toward the door, coughing, choking, vision blurring. The door was locked from the outside. She slammed her shoulder against it once, twice, 3 times. The wood held. Panic surged. She turned, looking for another way. The window in the kitchen was too small. The back door was blocked by fallen debris. The flames were spreading, crawling across the floor like living things. She wrapped Eli tighter in his blanket and ran for the front door again. This time she did not try the handle. She kicked. She threw herself against it. The door splintered, but did not break. Above her, a crossbeam groaned. She looked up. The roof was collapsing. She had one choice. She stepped back, covered Eli's face, and threw her full weight into the door. It burst open. She fell forward onto the porch, rolling, protecting her son with her body. Behind her, the crossbeam fell. It dropped like a guillotine, flaming and massive, straight toward where she lay. She saw it. She had no time to move. She curled tighter around Eli, knowing this was the end, hoping only that she had shielded him enough. The beam never struck. A shadow moved. No sound warned of it. No footsteps, no shout. Just motion, sudden and absolute. A man came out of the darkness like he had always been part of it. He dove between her and the falling timber, swung one arm in a brutal arc, and knocked the burning beam aside. It crashed into the dirt 6 feet away, sending sparks into the night. The man's hand caught fire in the process. His sleeve ignited. He did not cry out. He simply tore the sleeve off, dropped it, and turned back to her. Before Elena could speak, before she could even draw a breath, he crouched, scooped her and Eli into his arms, and ran. The back wall of the cabin exploded. A wave of heat and ash rolled outward. Burning thatch rained down. The man did not slow. His boots found the slope behind the cabin, slick with mud and pine needles. They slid, crashed through underbrush, tumbled into a gully where the smoke thinned and the roar of the fire dimmed to a distant growl. When they stopped, Elena lay sprawled on the cold ground. Her body was curled around Eli. The baby whimpered but did not scream. She checked him with shaking hands. Alive, coughing, terrified, but alive. Only then did she lift her head. The man stood a few feet away. Steam rose from his soaked coat. He had not brushed the cinders off himself. One hand, the burned one, hung loose at his side. The skin was blistered, red, raw. The other hand still held a small hatchet. His chest rose and fell, steady, as if he had done nothing more strenuous than walk across a room. His face was shadowed, but his eyes caught the firelight. They were pale, cold, assessing. She tried to speak. Her throat was full of ash and fear. Nothing came out. He stepped closer. The fire behind him painted the trees with shadows. When he spoke, his voice was low, rough, like gravel turned to speech. If you still want to live, don't look back. Elena blinked. The clarity of the moment was strange, sharp-edged. He did not ask her name. He did not demand answers. He did not ask why she was running from a burning cabin with a baby in her arms. He simply offered her something she had not known she needed, a way forward. Her hand reached up, not because she trusted him, not because she knew what else to do, but because her body remembered what it felt like to want to live. He took her hand without hesitation. His grip was strong, calloused, steady. For the first time in years, someone held her hand not to keep her there, not to own her, but to pull her forward. The ride through the forest was a blur of cold wind and darkness. The horse's hooves struck frozen ground with rhythmic urgency. Elena clung to the man's back, her arms wrapped around Eli. Every breath was a fight against the pain in her ribs and the tightening chill in the air. Her dress stuck to her skin, damp with melted snow and ash. She had no sense of time, only that the flames were far behind now, swallowed by the mountain. The man did not speak. He did not turn to check if she was conscious or if the child was breathing. He simply rode. When the horse finally slowed, it was to approach a clearing barely visible beneath the trees. A cabin stood there, weathered but solid. It leaned slightly to one side, its roof patched with mismatched shingles. A narrow corral stood beside it. A shed hung open like a gaping mouth. The man dismounted in one fluid motion. He turned and reached up, lifting Elena and Eli down without a word. She stumbled as her feet touched ground. He steadied her with one hand, then led them inside. The interior was sparse. A single table, one rocking chair, a stove in the corner with cold iron and a heap of firewood nearby. He lit a lamp. Its glow was soft, gold against wooden walls. But something caught Elena's eye. Through the doorway to the shed, visible in the lamplight's reach, she glimpsed equipment that did not belong to an ordinary rancher. Surveying tools, a brass telescope on a tripod, leather cases with brass fittings, the kind of instruments that cost more than most men earned in a year. She said nothing, but the question formed in her mind took root there. The man opened a door beside the hearth, a small room, clean, with a cot pushed against the wall. He gestured toward the bed. Elena stood in the doorway, uncertain. Eli whimpered in her arms. The man turned and left without looking at her. Moments later, he returned. In his arms, a basin of clean water, strips of linen, a wool blanket, a flat piece of bread wrapped in cloth, and a small tin jar. He placed them neatly at the edge of the bed, then stepped back. Before she could speak, he turned and left again. This time, when he returned, he did not enter the room. He knelt outside the threshold and placed something small by the door. 2 tiny leather shoes, scrubbed clean of dirt and soot, just the right size for an infant. He had gone back out into the dark to find them. Elena stared at the shoes. Her throat tightened, her vision blurred, but she said nothing. She picked them up and placed them beside the bed, next to the tin of balm. Later, after feeding Eli and wiping his face with the damp cloth, she sat on the edge of the cot. Her burns throbbed, her bones ached, but she could breathe. She called out, her voice dry, hesitant. "We." The man was leaning against the door frame. He did not startle. He did not shift. His eyes were steady, pale in the lamplight. You ran like someone with nothing left, he said. I've seen that before. They don't live long unless someone stops running first. There was nothing in his tone but truth. No kindness, no demand. Elena said nothing more, but when she lay down, her hand resting over Eli's chest, her eyes closed without fear for the first time in years. Outside in the cabin that belonged to no one, the man sat by the fire. He sharpened a blade that had not tasted war in a long, long time. Snow fell the next morning. Thin, drifting, soft as ash. The air was hushed, broken only by the frantic scream of an animal in pain. Elena jolted awake. She scooped up Eli and rushed outside, the cold biting into her feet through worn soles. At the far end of the corral, the man was bracing against a panicked horse. One of its front legs was caught between a warped stall door and the frost-hardened ground. Blood streamed from the joint, steaming in the morning cold. The animal thrashed, wild-eyed and foaming. The man held firm, his boots dug into the slush, his arms locked around the beast's neck in a brutal embrace, keeping it from snapping its own limb in fear. Elena did not think. She handed Eli into a hay-filled crate beside the fence and ran. She tore a strip from her skirt with her teeth and hands, then dropped to her knees beside the man. Blood spattered her dress as she pressed the fabric around the wound. Fingers steady despite the chill. The man adjusted his grip. Together, wordlessly, they moved in sync. She met his eyes over the horse's trembling body. He gave a slight nod. She pressed harder. The horse's breathing began to slow. The leg was freed. The man let go and stepped back, chest heaving. His hands were slick with red and dirt. Elena wiped her fingers on the edge of the trough, then looked up. His eyes met hers, not curious, not grateful, just seeing for the first time perhaps who she was without the fire or the fear. He studied her hands, noticed the way she had moved without hesitation, the competence in her touch. Your father teach you that? His voice was rough. She nodded. He worked in the mines, said every man should know how to stop bleeding, taught me the same. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, perhaps, or respect. Later, she sat on the porch, rinsing blood from her hands. The man returned from the tree line and placed a carved wooden bowl in front of her. Inside, crushed herbs and pine resin mixed into a thick green paste. No explanation. You helped, he said simply, voice like gravel. Most don't. She nodded, though he had already turned to go. They worked through the day. He repaired the fence. She hung laundry, fed Eli, swept the cabin floor. They moved around each other like dancers learning a new pattern. No words passed between them, but a rhythm began to form. That evening, as the sun bled red behind the mountains, Elena watched him from the window. He stood in the corral, running his hand along the injured horse's neck. The animal had calmed under his touch. There was something in the way he moved, patient and sure, that spoke of a man who had once commanded much more than horses. She looked again toward the shed, where those expensive instruments gleamed in the fading light. Who was he? And what was he hiding from? That night, Eli would not settle. He fussed and cried, a rare thing for him. Elena walked him, sang to him, but nothing helped. Finally, desperate, she carried him into the main room. The man sat by the fire, whittling a piece of wood. He looked up when she entered. I'm sorry, she said. I can't get him to sleep. He set down the knife, stood and reached for the baby. She hesitated only a moment before handing Eli over. The man held the child with surprising gentleness, supporting his head, cradling him against his broad chest. He began to walk, slow circles around the room, and started to hum. No tune she recognized, just a low, rhythmic sound that rumbled in his chest. Eli's cries quieted. His eyes grew heavy. Within minutes, he was asleep. The man handed him back, careful not to wake him. Their hands brushed in the exchange. Elena felt the roughness of his palms, the heat of his skin. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded once, then returned to his chair and his whittling. But something had changed. The walls between them, invisible but present, had thinned just a little. Elena put Eli to bed, but sleep would not come for her. She lay in the small room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the crackle of the fire in the next room. After an hour, she rose. She wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and walked quietly through the cabin. The man was not by the fire. The front door stood slightly ajar. She stepped outside. He sat on the porch steps, rifle across his knees, watching the darkness. "Can't sleep either?" she asked softly. "Don't sleep much anymore." She sat beside him, leaving space between them. For a long time, neither spoke. Then she saw it. Fresh tracks in the snow. Not deer, not elk. Horses. 3 of them, judging by the prints. They led close to the cabin, circled once, then headed back toward the tree line. "Someone was here," she said, her voice tight. "I know." "When?" "About an hour ago. I heard them. Watched them from the window." They didn't approach, just looked. Elena's hands clenched in her lap. "He's looking for me. Silas. He won't stop." The man turned to her. His eyes caught the starlight, pale and cold. "Did you tell anyone where you were going?" "I didn't know where I was going. I just ran." He nodded slowly. "Then he's tracking you, following the only road out of that valley. He'll check every cabin, every ranch, until he finds you." Fear coiled in her stomach. "I should leave. I'm bringing danger to you." "No." The word was flat, final. "If you run now, he'll find you alone out there." He gestured to the vast darkness beyond the cabin. "Here you have walls, you have me, and I don't run from men who hurt women." Something in his voice made her believe him. Not hope, not comfort, just cold, hard certainty. "What's your name?" she asked. "I don't even know what to call you." He was silent for a long moment, then, "Cole, that's enough." "I'm Elena, but you can call me Lena." "Lena," he repeated, as if testing the weight of it. They sat together in the cold, watching the darkness, and for the first time since the fire, Lena did not feel entirely alone. The next day, Cole taught her to shoot. He brought out a pistol, old but well-maintained, and set up a target behind the shed. A piece of wood with a circle carved into it. "Hold it like this." He stood behind her, positioned her hands. 2 hands. Firm grip. Don't lock your elbows. She felt the heat of him at her back, the steadiness of his presence. "Breathe out. Squeeze. Don't pull." She fired. The shot went wide, kicking up dirt 10 feet from the target. Again. They practiced for an hour. Her arms ached, her ears rang, but by the end she could hit the target more often than not. Cole nodded, satisfied. "You learn fast." "I had a good teacher." Something almost like a smile touched his lips. Almost. He showed her other things. Where he kept the ammunition, how to load the rifle, where the bear traps were buried around the property, and how to avoid them, how to bar the doors from inside, where the crawl space was beneath the floor, big enough to hide a person if needed. "Why are you teaching me all this?" she asked. "Because I won't always be here when trouble comes, and you need to be able to protect yourself and Eli." The implication hung between them. Trouble was coming. They both knew it. That evening, after waiting, Cole went to the storage cellar beneath the cabin. Lena heard him moving things, the scrape of wood on stone. When he emerged, his arms were full of weapons, rifles, pistols, boxes of ammunition. He laid them on the table, began cleaning each one with methodical care. Lena watched from the doorway. "You were a soldier." It was not a question. "A long time ago." "Which war?" "Does it matter?" She thought about that. "No, I suppose it doesn't." He continued his work. She joined him, helping to clean and oil the guns. They worked in companionable silence, the kind that forms between people who have seen the worst of the world and survived it. When they finished, Cole pulled something from his pocket, a small leather journal, worn and stained. He opened it to a page near the middle and showed her. The handwriting was rough, hurried. One sentence stood out. "Save someone. Don't die inside like I did. I wrote that 3 years ago," he said. "After I lost everything. I thought if I could just help one person, maybe it would mean something." Lena looked up at him. "It means something to me." Their eyes met, held, and in that moment something unspoken passed between them. Not love, not yet, but the possibility of it. The first fragile threads of connection. Then Eli cried from the other room, breaking the spell. Lena went to him, and Cole returned to his guns. But the threads remained, invisible but strong, beginning to weave together. The next night, Lena could not sleep. Her mind churned with memories of the cabin, of Silas, of the years she had lost. She rose and went to the storage room looking for an extra blanket. In her search, she knocked over a leather satchel. It fell, contents spilling across the floor. Photographs, documents, newspaper clippings. Lena froze. Her hands trembled as she picked up the first photograph. A man, younger than Cole but unmistakably him. He wore a fine vest and stood before a massive construction site. Behind him, a banner, Sterling and Sons Railroad Company. The second photograph showed a family. The same man, a beautiful woman with kind eyes, and a little girl with dark curls, perhaps 3 years old. They stood in front of a grand house, smiling. The newspaper clipping was yellowed, dated 1868. The headline made her breath catch. Railroad magnate's family slain, $100,000 reward offered. She read with shaking hands, James Cole Sterling, founder of Sterling and Sons Railroad. Wife Margaret and daughter Clara murdered during a robbery at their Denver estate. Sterling offers substantial reward for information leading to the killer's capture. There were more documents, land deeds, bank statements, all bearing the name J. Sterling. Find what you were looking for? Lena gasped, dropped the papers. Cole stood in the doorway. His face was unreadable. I'm sorry, she said. I wasn't trying to pry. It fell, and It's fine. He stepped into the room, knelt, began gathering the papers. You would have learned eventually. She helped him, their hands moving among the scattered pieces of his past. Is it true? She asked softly. You're James Sterling, the railroad man? Was. That man died 3 years ago. He sat back against the wall, held the photograph of his family. His thumb traced the faces of his wife and daughter. I built an empire, he said, laid thousands of miles of track, connected territories, made more money than 10 men could spend in a lifetime, and I thought that meant something. I thought it would protect the people I loved. His jaw clenched. I was wrong. They died in my house, in the home I built for them. While I was at a meeting about expanding into Utah, they died and I wasn't there. Lena's throat tightened. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I made enemies. Men I fired, men I outbid, men who wanted what I had. One of them decided to take it. Not my money, not my land, my family. He looked at her then, his eyes hollow. The marshals never found who did it. My investigators found nothing. $100,000 and not a single lead. So I gave up, walked away from it all, left the company to my partners, took what I could carry and disappeared. Why here? Because here, no one knows James Sterling. Here, I'm just a man with a cabin and a horse. Here, I can't hurt anyone with my pride or my ambition. Lena reached out, placed her hand over his, the one still holding the photograph. You saved my life. And Eli's. That man, the one who built the railroad. Maybe he made mistakes, but the man who pulled me from that fire, he's not dead. He's right here. Cole looked at their joined hands. Something in his expression softened, just a fraction. I thought I could run from it, he said, the guilt, the grief, but you can't run from what's inside you. No, Lena agreed, but maybe you can learn to live with it. Maybe you can find a reason to keep going. She squeezed his hand gently. I understand more than you know. I spent 2 years in a cage, thinking I deserved it somehow, thinking there was no way out. But there was. You showed me that. You gave me a choice. Cole met her eyes. What choice? Well, to live, really live, not just survive. They sat together in the small room, surrounded by the remnants of his former life, and something new began to grow in the space between them. Not born from passion or desperation, but from understanding, from shared pain transformed into shared purpose. Lena, he said quietly, there's something you should know about the man you're running from. She tensed. What about him? You said his name was Silas Murdoch, that he worked for a railroad company. Yes, he was a surveyor, I think, or an equipment manager, something like that. Cole's expression darkened. I remember him. He worked for Sterling and Sons. I fired him in 1867 for stealing equipment, selling our dynamite to outlaws. Lena's blood went cold. You knew him? I didn't make the connection until you described him, but yes, Silas Murdoch. He threatened me when I let him go, said I'd regret it, I had security escort him off the property. Never saw him again. Until now, Lena whispered. Until now. Cole stood, helped her to her feet, which means this isn't just about you. If he knows who I am, or even suspects, this becomes personal for him. Revenge for both of us. What do we do? Cole's eyes were cold, determined. We prepare. And when he comes, we make sure he doesn't leave. They returned to the main room. Cole spread a map on the table, showed her the layout of the property, the approaches, the vulnerable points. He'll come, Cole said. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, but he'll come. And when he does, you need to know what to do. Lena looked at the map, at the man beside her, at the sleeping baby in the next room. She thought about the years of fear, of helplessness, of being unable to protect herself or her child. Teach me, she said. Teach me everything. And so he did. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Cole reinforced the doors, added bars to the windows. He showed Lena how to move through the cabin in darkness, where to position herself for the best line of fire, how to reload quickly under brimstone. He taught her to listen, to distinguish between the sound of deer moving through brush and the sound of men trying to be quiet, to read the forest, to notice when the birds stopped singing, when the normal rhythms of the wild changed. They worked side by side, building defenses, laying traps, preparing for war. At night, they sat together on the porch. Sometimes they talked. More often, they simply sat in comfortable silence, watching the darkness, listening. One evening, Lena pulled a small locket from beneath her dress. She opened it, showed Cole the tiny photographs inside, a man and a woman, young and smiling. My parents, she said. This is all I have left of them. Cole looked at the faces, saw the resemblance to Lena in the woman's features. If something happens to me, Lena said, give this to Eli. Tell him his mother loved him enough to fight. Cole took the locket, held it carefully, then handed it back. You'll tell him yourself. But if I can't, you will, his voice was firm, because we're not running, we're not hiding, we're standing our ground, together. Lena closed the locket, tucked it back beneath her dress. Together. Cole reached into his coat, pulled out the worn journal. He opened it to that page, the one with the single sentence. I wrote this thinking I'd never have a reason to live again, he said. But you and Eli, you remind me what it feels like to be alive, to have something worth protecting. Then we'll stay alive, Lena said. All of us, together. They sat together as darkness fell, two broken people finding strength in each other, preparing to face the storm they both knew was coming. In the distance, so faint it might have been imagination, came the sound of hoofbeats. Cole stiffened. Lena's hand found his. How many? She whispered. Cole listened, his trained ear parsing the sounds. 3, maybe 4. They stood together, moved to the door. Cole grabbed his rifle. Lena checked the pistol at her hip, the one he'd given her to carry always. Through the trees, shapes emerged. 3 riders, moving slowly, deliberately. The lead rider pulled his horse to a stop at the edge of the clearing, just beyond the fence. Even in the dim twilight, Lena knew him. The slope of his shoulders, the cruel set of his jump, the way he sat his horse like a man who believed the world owed him everything. Silas Murdoch had found her. Cole stepped in front of Lena, rifle held ready but not raised. A warning, not a threat, not yet. Silas leaned forward in his saddle, squinting through the gloom. Then he smiled, a cold, cruel thing. Well, well, he called out. Didn't expect my runaway wife to shack up so fast. Who's the cowboy, sweetheart? Lena felt Cole tense beside her. She placed a hand on his arm, steadying him, steadying herself. Silas tilted his head, studying Cole. You look familiar, friend. We know each other? Cole's voice when he spoke was flat, emotionless. Name's Cole. This is my land. You're trespassing. Cole, Silas repeated, tasting the name. Just Cole? No last name? Don't need one. Silas laughed, but his eyes were calculating. Well, just Cole. That woman on your porch is my wife. That baby she's holding is my son. And the law says they belong to me. The law says a man can defend his property, Cole replied. You're on mine. Leave. One of the other riders, a massive man with a scarred face, reached for his gun. Cole's rifle came up instantly, smooth and practiced. The movement was so fast, so precise, that even the scarred man froze. Silas held up a hand. Easy, Carson. We're not here to start trouble. He looked back at Cole. Yet. He reached into his coat, pulled out papers. I got documents, Cole. Marriage certificate, birth records, all legal and proper. That woman and child are mine by law. She's not property, Cole said. In New Mexico territory, a wife is her husband's responsibility. And that responsibility includes bringing her home when she runs off with strange men. The words were carefully chosen, designed to provoke. Cole did not rise to the bait. I see a woman who ran from a burning cabin, Cole said. I see a child who nearly died in that fire. I see a man who shows up 3 days later, looking for them instead of being relieved they're alive. Makes a person wonder. Silas's smile vanished. You calling me a liar? I'm saying what I see. The tension stretched. The scarred man, Carson, kept his hand near his gun. The third rider, a lean man with cold eyes, watched everything with predator stillness. Finally, Silas reined his horse back a step. I'm a reasonable man, Cole. I'll give you 3 days to think about this. To realize you're interfering in a domestic matter. 3 days to send my wife and son back where they belong. And if I don't, then I come back with a U.S. Marshal, and interfering with a man reclaiming his legal family? Well, that's a federal crime. Silas's smile returned. Choose wisely, cowboy. He turned his horse, began to ride away. Then he stopped, looked back. Oh, and Cole? Accidents happen on ranches. Fires, floods, animals get spooked. Best keep an eye on everything you love. The 3 riders disappeared into the darkness. Cole did not lower his rifle until the sound of hoofbeats faded completely. Lena was shaking, not from fear, but from rage. He won't stop. I know. He'll bring more men. I know. Cole finally lowered the rifle, turned to her. But we have 3 days, and I don't plan to waste them. What are you going to do? Cole looked out at the darkness where Silas had vanished. I'm going to make sure that when he comes back, he doesn't walk away. He went inside, returned with his coat and hat. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me. Where are you going? To find out what he's planning. Cole, it's too dangerous. He met her eyes. So is waiting here blind. I'll be back before dawn. Before she could argue further, he was gone, melting into the shadows like smoke. Lena stood on the porch, Eli sleeping in her arms, and watched the darkness swallow the only person who stood between her and the man who owned her papers, if not her soul. She went inside, barred the door, and waited. The night stretched long and cold. She checked on Eli every few minutes. She paced. She looked out the window at the empty clearing, the silent forest, and she prayed for the first time in years, not to any particular god, but to whatever force in the universe might listen. Please, let him come back. Let him be safe. Because somewhere in the last few days, without realizing it, she had stopped seeing Cole as just a stranger who saved her life. She had started seeing him as home. Cole moved through the forest like a shadow-given form. His boots found purchase on frozen ground without sound. His breath came steady, controlled, visible only as faint mist in the cold air. He had learned this silence in the war, perfected it in the years after. Now it served him again. He followed the tracks left by Silas and his men, 3 horses heading north into the mountains, not east toward town, where a man seeking legal help would go, north into the wilderness, where men who wanted privacy conducted their business. The tracks led him 2 miles from his cabin, deeper into territory he knew well. These mountains had been his refuge for 3 years. He knew every gulch, every game trail, every abandoned mining claim. He knew where outlaws camped when they needed to disappear. He knew where men met when they did not want witnesses. After an hour of tracking, he saw firelight through the trees. He approached with caution, using the terrain for cover, moving from boulder to tree to shadow. The voices reached him before he could see the camp clearly. Silas's voice, recognizable even at a distance. Harsh, commanding. Cole circled until he found a vantage point, a cluster of rocks overlooking a small clearing where an abandoned mining camp huddled against the mountainside. Wooden structures sagged with age and neglect. A campfire burned in the center, and around it sat not 3 men, but 7. Silas, the scarred man, Carson, the lean one with cold eyes, and 4 others Cole did not recognize. All armed, all hard-looking men who wore violence like a second skin. Cole settled into position behind the rocks, downwind, invisible in the darkness. He listened. "The rancher's got money," Silas was saying. "I can smell it. That cabin, the equipment in his shed, the horses. Man's got wealth hidden somewhere." Carson spat into the fire. "So what? We came for the woman and the brat." "We came for Leverton," Silas corrected. "The woman is mine by law. But if this cowboy's got gold stashed away, we take that too. Call it compensation for my trouble." One of the new men, a stocky figure with a thick beard, leaned forward. "You sure about this, Murdoch? Taking on a man who moves like that rancher? I saw how fast he brought that rifle up." "That's not amateur speed. That's why we're 7 and he's 1, Silas said. "When we go back in 3 days, we go prepared. We take the woman, we take the child, and if the cowboy fights, we put him in the ground." "What about the marshal you mentioned?" the lean man asked. Silas laughed. "There is no marshal. That was a bluff. But the cowboy doesn't know that. Right now, he's probably trying to figure out if he should run or fight. The doubt is the weapon. Fear is the weapon." Carson grunted. "What if he runs? Takes the woman with him?" "He won't. I saw it in his eyes. He's the type that stands. The type that thinks he can protect her." Silas's voice turned bitter. "Probably thinks he's some kind of hero." Another man spoke up, younger, nervous. "Boss, you sure this is just about the wife? You keep looking at that wanted poster like—" "Shut up." But Cole had seen it, the way Silas's hand moved to his coat pocket where paper crinkled, the way his expression changed when he looked at Cole, recognition brewing beneath suspicion. "There's something familiar about him," Silas muttered. "Can't place it yet, but I will." The bearded man divided weapons across a blanket. Rifles, pistols, dynamite, rope. The tools of men planning an assault, not a legal recovery. "We hit him at dawn on the 3rd day," Silas said. "He'll expect us in daylight, probably thinks we'll come from the front." We split up. "Carson, you take 2 men around the back. Ramon, you and Miller come from the east. I'll approach from the front with Davis. Keep him talking." "And if the woman fights?" Ramon, the lean one, asked. "She won't. She's broken. 2 years I kept her in that cabin, and she never once tried to kill me. She'll fold." Cole's jaw clenched. His burned hand tightened on the rifle stock. But he did not move. Not yet. He needed more information. Silas pulled out the paper from his pocket, unfolded it by the firelight. Even from his position, Cole could see it was old, worn at the creases. A wanted poster or a newspaper clipping. "This Sterling fellow," Silas said, studying the paper. "The railroad king. Disappeared 3 years back after his family got killed. $100,000 reward for information about the killers. Man was worth millions." Cole went very still. "What's that got to do with anything?" Carson asked. "Maybe nothing, maybe everything." Silas folded the paper, tucked it away. "Just a thought nagging at me. The way that cowboy carries himself, the quality of his equipment, the fact he's living alone in the middle of nowhere like a man hiding. You think he's Sterling? I think if he is, we're not just taking a woman and a child. We're taking everything that man's got left. And if word gets out that we know where James Sterling is, there's people who'd pay well for that information." "You mean the people who killed his family?" "I mean anyone interested in unfinished business." The men laughed, passed a bottle around. They talked strategy, timing, who would do what. Cole memorized every word, every detail. When they finally settled in for the night, leaving 1 man on watch, Cole withdrew. He moved back through the forest, faster now that he knew what he faced. 7 men, armed and planning an ambush. And Silas was beginning to suspect who Cole really was. The situation had just become exponentially more dangerous. By the time Cole reached the cabin, false dawn was lighting the eastern sky. He knocked twice, paused, knocked once more. Their signal. Lena opened the door immediately. Relief flooded her face when she saw him. "Thank God," she breathed. "I was so worried." Cole stepped inside, barred the door behind him. "We need to talk." She saw something in his expression. something that made her sink into the chair by the table. What did you find? Silas isn't alone. He's got 6 men with him. They're camped 2 miles north, planning to attack at dawn 3 days from now. Lena's face went pale. 7 men? Yes. We can't fight 7 men. No, Cole agreed. Not in a straight fight, but we don't have to fight fair. He spread the map on the table, began marking positions. They're planning to split up, come at us from 3 directions. Front, back, and east side. They think I'll be watching the front. What do? We use their plan against them, let them split up, pick them off separately. He looked at her. But there's something else. Something you need to know. She waited. Silas knows who I am, or he's figuring it out. He's got an old newspaper clipping about James Sterling. He's putting the pieces together. Lena's eyes widened. If he knows you're Sterling, then this isn't just about taking you back. It's about revenge. I fired him years ago. He threatened me then. Now he sees a chance to settle that score. This is my fault. I brought this to your door. No. Cole's voice was firm. This was always coming. Silas worked for me. I made an enemy when I fired him. He's the one who chose to act on it, and he's the one who's going to regret it. Lena studied the map, the positions Cole had marked. What do you need me to do? Learn the plan. Know where to be, when to shoot, when to hide. If this goes wrong, you take Eli and you run. There's a trail behind the cabin that leads to the old mine works. You hide there until it's safe. I'm not leaving you. Lena, I'm not. Her voice was steel. I've run my whole life. From my father's death, from Silas, from everything. I'm done running. This is my fight too. Cole looked at her, really looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes, the set of her jaw. She was not the same terrified woman he had pulled from the fire. Something in her had changed, hardened, found its edge. All right, he said, then we fight together. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Cole showed her the positions he wanted her to take during the attack. The window with the best line of sight. The corner where she could reload, protected by the stone chimney. The door to the crawl space where Eli would be hidden, wrapped in blankets to muffle any sound. He taught her to move through the cabin in darkness, counting steps, knowing by feel where every piece of furniture stood. He taught her to load the rifle by touch alone, to clear a jam, and to switch between weapons without fumbling. They practiced until her hands moved with confidence, until the actions became muscle memory. In the evenings, they set traps around the property. Bear traps hidden beneath leaves and snow at the approaches Silas's men would use. Tripwires connected to bells that would give warning, false trails that led to dead ends or exposed positions. Cole was methodical, patient, thorough. He had learned these tactics in the war, refined them in the years after. Now he taught them to Lena, and she absorbed every lesson with fierce concentration. On the second night, as they worked by lamplight cleaning weapons, Lena asked the question that had been weighing on her. Cole, if Silas tells people who you are, won't that bring trouble? From the people who hurt your family? Cole's hands stilled on the rifle he was cleaning. Yes. Then we should run, before he can spread the word. Running won't help. If Silas suspects, others will too. The only way to keep that secret is to make sure he doesn't leave this mountain. The implication hung between them. Lena understood what he was saying, what he was willing to do. I won't judge you for it, she said softly. After what he did to me, after what he's planning. This isn't about judgment. It's about survival. His or ours, and I choose ours. Lena reached across the table, placed her hand over his. When this is over, when we've won, what happens then? Cole turned his hand over, let their fingers intertwine. Then we live, however that looks, wherever that takes us. We just live. Together? He met her eyes. If you'll have me. Something passed between them then. Not spoken, not promised, but understood. They were bound now by shared danger and shared purpose and something deeper that neither was ready to name. The moment was broken by Eli's cry from the other room. Lena went to him, and Cole returned to his weapons. But the connection remained, a thread between them growing stronger with each passing hour. On the morning of the third day, Cole woke before dawn. He had not slept much, had instead kept watch through the night, listening to the forest sounds, feeling the rhythm of the mountain. Something was wrong. The birds were silent. The usual rustle of small animals moving through the underbrush was absent. The forest had gone still in the way it did when predators were near. They were not waiting until dawn. They were coming early. Cole moved quickly but quietly. He woke Lena with a hand over her mouth, a finger to his lips. She understood immediately, nodded. He pointed to Eli, then to the crawl space. She moved without question, wrapped the baby in blankets, placed him in the hidden space beneath the floor, and covered the entrance. Then she took her position by the window, rifle ready, just as they had practiced. Cole checked the loads on his weapons, positioned himself near the door. He could feel them now, out in the darkness. Multiple positions, moving with more skill than he had hoped they would have. The attack came not with a shout or a charge, but with fire. A flaming arrow arced through the darkness, struck the roof of the barn. Within seconds, the old dry wood caught. Flames spread quickly, hungrily, lighting the clearing with orange glow. Cole cursed. A diversion. They were trying to draw him out, make him choose between the animals and the cabin. He did not take the bait. The horses were loose in the corral, could escape on their own if needed. The barn was a loss, but the cabin and the people inside it were what mattered. More arrows came. One struck the porch. Another hit the shed. They were surrounding the cabin with fire, eliminating escape routes, forcing a confrontation. Then the gunfire started. Bullets slammed into the cabin walls from 3 directions, just as Cole had predicted. Front, back, east side. The windows shattered. Wood splintered. Lena ducked below the windowsill, returned fire when she saw muzzle flashes. Cole moved to the back door, fired through a gun port he had cut in the wood. He saw a shape moving through the smoke, aimed, fired. The shape fell, one down. A voice from the front, Silas, shouting over the gunfire. "Cole, send out my wife and child, and we'll let you live. You've got 10 seconds. Cole did not waste breath responding. He moved to the front window, saw Silas and another man using the fence for cover. He aimed carefully, fired. The man beside Silas jerked and fell. 2 down. But there were still 5, and the cabin was surrounded. A massive impact shook the back door. Someone was trying to break it down. Cole ran to reinforce it, threw his weight against the wood as another impact struck. The bar across the door cracked but held. From the front, the sound of breaking glass. A bottle flew through the shattered window, trailing flame. A Molotov cocktail. It shattered against the stone fireplace, spread burning liquid across the floor. Lena grabbed a blanket, smothered the flames before they could spread. But more bottles came, and more. The cabin was filling with smoke, heat, the threat of being burned alive just as Lena's first prison had burned. Cole made a decision. They could not stay defensive. They had to take the fight outside. "Lena," he shouted, "stay with Eli. Don't come out no matter what you hear." Before she could respond, he threw open the front door and charged into the night. The sudden movement surprised Silas's men. Cole fired as he ran, not stopping, using momentum and darkness and smoke for cover. He dove behind the water trough, bullets kicking up dirt around him. From this position, he could see better. Ramon, the lean sharpshooter, was on the roof of the shed. Carson, the scarred enforcer, was moving around the side of the cabin toward the back. 3 others were spread out in the trees providing covering fire. Cole took aim at Ramon, fired. The shot went wide, but Ramon ducked, lost his position. Cole used the moment to move again, rolling behind the fence, coming up firing. He caught one of the men in the trees, center mass. The man went down without a sound. 3 down, 4 to go. But Carson had reached the back of the cabin. Cole heard the crash as the big man finally broke through the damaged door. Horror flooded through him. Lena was inside, alone except for a hidden baby, and Carson was inside with her. Cole ran, abandoning cover, sprinting for the cabin. Bullets chased him. One grazed his shoulder, spinning him partially around, but he did not stop. He hit the front door at full speed, crashed through into the smoke-filled interior. Inside, chaos. Lena and Carson were locked in brutal close combat. The big man had her by the throat, was lifting her off the ground. Her rifle lay broken on the floor, but she had pulled the pistol from her belt, was pressing it against Carson's ribs. She fired. The shot was muffled by Carson's body, but the effect was immediate. The big man's eyes went wide. His grip loosened. Lena fired again and again until he collapsed. 4 down. Cole grabbed Lena, pulled her away from the body. You all right? She was shaking, but she nodded. Eli? Still hidden. We need to end this, now. They moved together toward the front door, but before they could reach it, another bottle came flying through the window. This one did not shatter against stone. It broke against the wooden floor, and flames spread quickly, too quickly to smother. The cabin was burning. Get Eli, Cole shouted. I'll cover you. Lena ran to the crawl space, threw open the hatch, pulled the baby out. Eli was crying now, terrified by the noise and smoke. She wrapped him tight, protected him with her body. Cole fired through the door, keeping the remaining men pinned. Go, out the back! The trail to the mine! But Lena did not run. She moved to the window, the one with the best sight line, and took up position. Not without you. Lena, the cabin's burning. Then we better finish this fast. Something in her voice, in her absolute refusal to leave him, made Cole's decision. They would stand together or fall together. There was no other way now. He moved beside her, and together they poured fire into the darkness. Ramon, on the shed roof, went down with a bullet through the shoulder. He fell, did not get up. 5 down. One of the men in the trees broke cover, tried to rush the cabin. Both Cole and Lena fired simultaneously. The man crumpled. 6 down. That left only Silas. The firing stopped. Smoke billowed from the cabin. Flames were climbing the walls, consuming everything. The heat was becoming unbearable. Silas's voice came from the darkness, closer than before. I know who you are, Sterling. I figured it out. And before I die, before you kill me, I'm going to make sure the whole territory knows. The men who killed your family, they'll come for you. They'll finish what they started. Cole's jaw clenched. Lena looked at him, saw the conflict in his eyes. Go, she said. I'll get Eli out. Finish this. Lena, I can do this. I'm not that scared girl anymore. You showed me that. Now go. End it. Cole looked at her, this woman who had found courage in the worst circumstances, who had become strong when she had every reason to break. He nodded once, then turned and ran into the burning cabin. He found Silas trying to circle around to the back door. The man had a rifle, was moving with purpose, intent on getting inside while they were distracted by the fire. Murdoch! Silas spun, bringing his rifle up. Both men fired simultaneously. Cole's shot struck Silas in the thigh. Silas's shot went wide, clipped a burning beam that fell between them. Silas stumbled, fell, tried to raise his rifle again. Cole kicked it away, stood over the man who had tormented Lena, who had brought death to his doorstep, who threatened to expose the secret that kept Cole safe. Do it, Silas gasped, blood spreading across his leg. Kill me. Prove you're just like me. Cole stared down at him, rifle aimed at the man's chest. It would be easy, one shot, all the threat eliminated, all the danger erased. But something stopped him. Lena's voice from that first night. I thought dying in that fire might be the only way I'd leave that place. In his own reply. That was not the hand of someone giving up. That was someone choosing to live. To live. Not to kill, not to become what he had been running from. Cole lowered the rifle slightly. No, I won't kill you, because I'm nothing like you. You kill for revenge, for greed, for control. I fight to protect, and the law can do the rest. But then Silas laughed, a horrible wet sound. The law, there is no law out here, Sterling. There's only power. And I've got one last card to play. His hand moved faster than Cole expected, pulling something from his coat. Not a gun, a piece of paper. The newspaper clipping he had been carrying. I sent word already, Silas shouted, triumphant even in defeat. Before we came tonight, sent a telegram to Denver. Told them James Sterling is alive, living as a rancher in New Mexico. They'll come, Sterling. The men who killed your family will come to finish the job. Cole's blood went cold. You're lying. Am I? Try me, kill me, and you'll never know who I told. Let me live, and maybe, just maybe, I'll tell you how to stop them. The standoff held for a long moment. Cole's finger on the trigger, Silas bleeding and laughing below him. Then from the darkness, new sounds. Horses, many of them, and voices shouting commands. Both men turned. Through the smoke and flames emerged riders, at least 15 of them, wearing the unmistakable uniform of Union cavalry. At their head rode a man Cole recognized. Captain Marcus Webb, his face older but his bearing unchanged. Behind him, more familiar faces. Men Cole had served with, fought beside, saved and been saved by, in turn. Webb pulled his horse to a stop, looked at the burning cabin, the bodies scattered around the clearing, Cole standing over Silas with a rifle. "James," Webb said, "we got your telegram. Came as fast as we could. Looks like we're late to the party." Cole lowered his rifle, confusion crossing his face. "I didn't send any telegram." Webb's expression shifted. "Then who?" He looked past Cole and his face changed. "Well, I'll be damned." Cole turned. Lena stood there, Eli in her arms, soot-covered and exhausted. In her free hand, she held a piece of paper. "I sent it," she said, 2 days ago, when you were tracking Silas. "I walked to the telegraph office, sent word to everyone I could think of. The marshals, the territorial governor, and anyone connected to Sterling Railroad." Cole stared at her. "How did you—" "I found addresses in your papers. I didn't know if anyone would come, but I had to try." She looked at Webb. "Are you Captain Marcus Webb?" "I am." "He saved your life at Antietam, pulled you from under a dead horse while you were unconscious. You said if he ever needed anything, you owed him." Webb nodded slowly. "That's true. I've been looking for James for 3 years, worried about him. When I got word he needed help, I gathered every man I could find who served with him." He looked at Cole. "You've got more friends than you know, James. We all came." Cole looked at Lena, at this woman who had thought ahead while he had been focused only on the immediate threat, who had understood that sometimes strength was not just in fighting, but in knowing when to call for help. "You saved us," he said softly. "We saved each other." Webb dismounted, approached Silas. "This the man causing trouble?" "Silas Murdoch," Cole said. "Kidnapping, arson, attempted murder, and he claims he sent word to Denver about my location." Webb's expression hardened. "Did he now?" He signaled to 2 of his men. "Take him into custody. We'll see what the territorial marshal has to say about all this." As they hauled Silas away, the man shouted over his shoulder, "It's too late, Sterling. The word is out. They're coming for you. You'll never be safe again." Webb watched him go, then turned back to Cole. "Is it true? Did he expose you?" "I don't know, maybe. He claims he sent a telegram." "Then we'll check. I've got contacts in Denver. If word got out, we'll know, and if it did—" Webb put a hand on Cole's shoulder. "Then we deal with it, together, like we should have from the start." Lena approached, Eli now quiet in her arms. "The cabin's lost. Everything inside it is burning." Cole looked at the structure that had been his home for 3 years, now collapsing in on itself as flames consumed the last standing walls. 3 years of isolation. 3 years of hiding. 3 years of believing he had to face the world alone. All of it burning away. "Let it burn," he said. "It was never really home anyway." He looked at Lena, at Eli, at the men who had ridden through the night to answer a call he had not even made. "Home is not a place you hide. It's people you stand with." Webb smiled. "Welcome back, James. We've missed you." As the cavalry made camp and tended to wounds and began the work of cleaning up the aftermath, Cole and Lena stood together watching the fire burn itself out. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we find out if Silas was telling the truth. If he exposed me, we deal with it. If he didn't, we still deal with it, because now I know I don't have to hide anymore." "And if the men who killed your family come?" Cole looked at her, this woman who had survived imprisonment and fire and battle, who had called for help when he had been too proud or too afraid to do so himself, who had stood beside him when she could have run. "Then we face them, together, with help from people who care. That's what I forgot, what I lost when Margaret and Clara died. I forgot that strength is not in being alone. It's in being connected." Lena leaned against him, careful of Eli between them. "Then we'll stay connected. All of us, whatever comes." Webb approached, a piece of paper in his hand. His expression was grim. "Found this in Murdoch's coat. It's a telegram receipt sent 2 days ago to 3 different addresses in Denver. Cole's stomach sank. So he did tell them. He told someone. But James, there's something you should know about who he sent the telegrams to. Who? Webb handed him the paper. Cole read the names and his blood went cold. The first name he recognized, a rival railroad owner, one he had competed with for contracts. The second was a lawyer he had fired for embezzlement. The third made his hands shake. Victor Kane, the gang leader from the Four Corners region. The same man Silas had been dealing with when the cabin burned. The same man whose raiders Silas had sold weapons to. Kane, Cole whispered. He's the one who your investigators suspected in your family's death, Webb finished, but could never prove. Lena's grip on Cole's arm tightened. Who is Victor Kane? Cole's voice was hollow when he answered. The man who might have orchestrated the murder of my wife and daughter. The man I've been unable to find for 3 years. And now Silas has told him exactly where I am. The fire crackled. The night was cold. And somewhere out there, the past Cole had been running from was turning around, coming back with vengeance in its heart. How long do we have? Lena asked. Webb checked the telegram date. Message was sent 2 days ago. If Kane is in Denver, he could be here in a week. Maybe less if he rides hard. Cole looked at the remains of the cabin, at the men scattered around the camp, at Lena and Eli. Then we have a week to prepare, to fortify, to get ready for the fight I've been avoiding for 3 years. You don't have to fight alone, Webb said. We've got 15 veterans here. More will come when they hear. The territorial marshal is sending deputies. You're not the isolated rancher anymore, James. You're surrounded by people who will stand with you. Cole nodded slowly, the weight of it settling on him. Not the weight of responsibility, but something else. Something he had forgotten how to feel. Hope. Then let's get ready, he said, because when Kane comes, we're going to be ready for him. And this time, I won't lose the people I love. He looked at Lena as he said it, and she looked back, understanding the depth of what he meant. In the days that followed, the camp transformed. Webb's men helped build a new structure, stronger than the old cabin, positioned better for defense. They dug rifle pits. They established watches. They sent scouts to monitor the trails. And Cole, for the first time in 3 years, stopped running from who he had been. He was James Cole Sterling, railroad magnate, Union veteran, a man who had lost everything and rebuilt from nothing, a man who had tried to hide but was now ready to stand. And he would stand with Lena, with Eli, with the men who had answered the call. Because home was not a place you hid. Home was people worth fighting for, and this time, he would not fail them. The new structure rose from the ashes of the old cabin in 5 days. Not a cabin anymore, but a fortified ranch house. Stone foundation, thick log walls, windows positioned for defense, a clear field of fire in every direction. Webb's men worked with the efficiency of soldiers who had built field fortifications under enemy fire. They knew what they were doing, and they did it well. Cole worked alongside them, his hands remembering the labor of construction, the satisfaction of building something meant to last. Lena helped where she could, Eli strapped to her back in a carrier one of the veterans had fashioned from spare cloth. On the 6th day, a rider came from town. Not one of Kane's men, but a territorial marshal accompanied by 2 deputies. They brought news. Victor Kane left Denver 4 days ago, the marshal said. His name was Bryant, a hard-faced man with gray in his beard and authority in his bearing, riding with at least 20 men. They're coming this way, and they're not hiding their intentions. Cole stood on the porch of the new house, looking out at the mountains. How long until they arrive? Day, maybe 2 if they take it slow. They'll scout first, assess your position. Kane's not stupid. He'll want to know what he's facing. Let him look, Webb said. Let him see we're ready. Bryant studied the fortifications, the positioned men, the organized camp. You've got maybe 15 fighters here. Kane's got 20. Those aren't good odds. They're better than 1, Cole replied. Fair point. Bryant removed his hat, wiped his brow. The territorial governor wants this resolved legally if possible. Kane's wanted for various crimes, but proving his connection to the murder of your family 3 years ago, that's going to be difficult without evidence. I have evidence, a voice said from behind them. They turned. Silas Murdoch stood in the doorway of the supply shed where he had been held under guard. He looked diminished, his leg wound bandaged, his arrogance stripped away, but his eyes were calculating. "You have nothing," Cole said. "I have testimony, and I have documents. Papers that show the payments Kane made to me, the arrangements we had, proof that Kane ordered the hit on your family as retaliation for you refusing to sell him right of way through Colorado territory." Cole descended the steps slowly, approached Silas. "You're lying, trying to bargain your way out of prison." "Maybe, or maybe I'm telling the truth." Silas smiled weakly. "I was the middleman, Sterling. Kane needed someone on the inside of your organization, someone who knew your routines, your security, your family's schedule. I gave him everything he needed." The words hit Cole like physical blows. "You worked for me. I trusted you. You fired me. You humiliated me. You made sure I could never work in railroads again. So yes, when Kane approached me with an offer, I took it." Silas's smile faded. "I didn't know he was going to kill them. I thought he just wanted information for blackmail, leverage. When I found out what happened, it was too late. And you never came forward, never told anyone. Would you have believed me? The disgraced former employee accusing a powerful man with no proof?" Silas shook his head. "I took Kane's money and disappeared. Tried to start over. But men like Kane don't let loose ends walk away. He's been looking for me, too. That's why I was hiding in that cabin. That's why I kept Lena locked up. I thought if I disappeared completely, he'd forget about me." Marshal Bryant stepped forward. "If you testify to this, if you provide documentation, the territory can bring charges against Kane. Murder, conspiracy, a dozen other crimes." "And what do I get?" "Reduced sentence. Maybe. Depends on what you give us and whether it holds up." Silas looked at Cole. "I can give you Kane, but you have to promise me protection. If he finds out I'm talking, he'll kill me. He'll kill everyone connected to me." Cole's jaw clenched. Every fiber of his being wanted to refuse, to let Silas rot for what he had done to Lena, for his role in Margaret and Clara's deaths. But pragmatism won over emotion. "Tell us everything," Cole said. "Where the documents are, who else was involved, every detail you know. Do that and you'll have protection." Silas nodded slowly. "The documents are buried under the floorboards of the burned cabin, in a metal box. Bank records, letters from Kane, my own notes. Everything you need." Webb dispatched 2 men to search the ruins. They returned an hour later with a smoke-damaged metal box. Inside, exactly as Silas had described, were papers that laid out a conspiracy spanning 3 years. Marshal Bryant read through them, his expression growing darker with each page. "This is enough, more than enough. Kane and 4 of his lieutenants can hang for this." "If we can take them alive," Cole said. "If," Bryant agreed. They spent the rest of the day preparing, not just for battle, but for what came after. Bryant and his deputies would serve as legal witnesses, documentation that whatever happened next was done in accordance with territorial law. Webb positioned his men in overlapping fields of fire. Rifle pits were reinforced. Ammunition was distributed. Escape routes were planned for the non-combatants. Lena insisted she would not be among those who fled. "I can shoot," she told Cole. "You taught me. I'm not hiding while you fight. Eli needs his mother. Eli needs both of us, and I can help. Put me somewhere useful or I'll find my own position." Cole looked at her, this woman who had transformed from prisoner to partner in the span of weeks. He nodded. "Second floor window, east side. You'll have a clear view of the approach. Don't shoot unless you're certain of your target." "I won't miss." He believed her. That night, Cole could not sleep. He stood on the porch of the new house, rifle across his knees, watching the darkness, listening for sounds that did not belong. Lena joined him, moving quietly, sitting beside him on the steps. "Do you think they'll come tonight?" she asked. "No, Kane will scout first. He'll want to see our numbers, our positions. He'll attack when he thinks he has the advantage." "What if he doesn't attack? What if he just leaves?" "He won't. I know men like Kane. Pride won't let him walk away. And if Silas is telling the truth, Kane has been looking for me as much as I've been looking for him. This is his chance to finish what he started." Lena was quiet for a moment, then, Cole, after this is over, if we survive, what will you do? Will you go back to Denver? Reclaim your company? Cole had thought about this question for days. The answer had been forming in his mind, solidifying into certainty. No, he said, that life is gone. I don't want it back. The company ran fine without me. Let it continue. The fortune, most of it, can go to schools and orphanages, people who need it more than I do. Then what? He looked at her. I want to build something here. Not an empire, just a home, a real one, with people who matter. A place where children can grow up safe, where a woman doesn't have to fear the man she married, where the past doesn't define the future. Lena's hand found his. That sounds like a good life. It does, and I want to live it with you. You and Eli, if you'll have me. She was quiet so long he feared he had misread everything between them. Then she spoke, her voice soft but certain. I thought I could never trust a man again after Silas. I thought all men were the same, that marriage was just a different kind of prison. But you showed me something different. You showed me that protection doesn't have to mean possession. That strength can be gentle. That a man can be powerful without being cruel. She turned to face him. Yes, Cole, I'll have you. I'll build that life with you. Whatever comes, we face it together. He leaned forward and she met him halfway. Their kiss was tender, tentative, the first real intimacy between two people who had found each other in the worst circumstances and chosen to make something better. When they pulled apart, Lena smiled. Although I have one condition. What's that? No more secrets, no more hiding. If we're building a life together, we do it honestly. All of it. Agreed, no more secrets. They sat together in the darkness, holding hands, knowing that tomorrow might bring death and destruction, but also knowing that whatever came, they would face it as they faced everything now. Together. The scouts reported Kane's approach at dawn. 23 men, not 20, more than expected. They were moving slowly, deliberately, studying the ranch from multiple angles. Cole watched from the second-floor window as riders circled just beyond rifle range. They were assessing, planning, looking for weaknesses. They'll wait until afternoon, Webb predicted. Give us time to get anxious, make mistakes, then they'll hit us hard and fast. Let them wait. We're ready. But as the morning stretched into midday, something unexpected happened. A single rider approached, white flag raised. Not Kane himself, but a lieutenant, a lean man with a scar across his cheek. Marshal Bryant went out to meet him, accompanied by two deputies. They spoke for several minutes. Then Bryant returned, his expression troubled. Kane wants to talk, says he has a proposal. What kind of proposal? He wants you, Sterling. Alone, says if you come out, he'll let everyone else go free. No bloodshed, just you for them. Cole's jaw tightened. He's lying. Probably, but he's offering terms. We have to at least consider them. I'm not considering anything. This is a trap, Webb agreed. It's absolutely a trap. He wants to draw you out, kill you in the open, then attack while we're demoralized. Classic intimidation tactic. But Cole was thinking, looking at the map, at the positions, at the numbers. 23 against 15. Those odds would result in casualties no matter how well fortified they were. Good men would die. Maybe Lena. Maybe Eli if something went wrong. What if I go? He said quietly. Every head in the room turned. James, no, Webb said immediately. Hear me out. What if I go, but on my terms? I set the meeting location. I bring backup they can't see. We turn his trap into our trap. Marshal Bryant stroked his beard. It's risky. If it goes wrong, you're dead and we're still fighting the battle anyway. If it goes right, we take Kane alive. We get justice for Margaret and Clara. We end this without more death. Lena had been listening from the doorway. Now she spoke. No, I won't let you walk into a trap. Cole went to her, took her hands. I'm not walking into anything blind. I'll have men positioned. I'll have a plan. But if I can end this without risking you, without risking Eli, I have to try. You promise no more secrets, no more hiding. That means no more sacrificing yourself because you think it's noble. This isn't sacrifice. This is strategy. Trust me. Their eyes locked. The weight of everything they had been through, everything they had promised each other, hung between them. Finally, Lena nodded. I trust you. But I'm not staying here. If you go, I'm positioned close enough to help if it goes wrong. Deal. They planned for 3 hours. The meeting would be in the clearing north of the ranch, the same area where Silas had camped with his men. Open ground, but surrounded by rocks and trees that could hide riflemen. Cole would approach on foot, unarmed as Kane demanded. But Webb's best sharpshooters would be positioned in the rocks. Marshal Bryant and his deputies would be hidden in the tree line. Lena would be on high ground with a rifle, covering the main approach. If Kane tried anything, he would find himself in a crossfire with no escape. As the sun began its descent toward evening, Cole prepared. He removed his weapons, his knife. Everything Kane could claim was a violation of the terms. He put on a simple shirt and trousers. He looked like an ordinary rancher, not a millionaire, not a former soldier, just a man seeking justice. Before he left, he found Eli sleeping in a makeshift crib. He looked down at the child, this innocent life that had become part of his purpose. He placed a hand gently on the baby's chest, felt the steady rise and fall of breathing. "I'll keep you safe," he whispered. "I'll keep you both safe. That's my promise." Then he found Lena checking her rifle. She looked up when he entered, and for a moment neither spoke. "If this goes wrong," Cole started. "It won't. But if it does, there's something I need you to know. I told you no more secrets. So here's the truth. I love you. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you helped save that horse. Maybe when you called for help because you understood I was too proud to do it myself. Maybe it was always there, waiting. But I love you, Lena. And if I die today, I die knowing I found something worth living for." Tears gathered in Lena's eyes, but she did not let them fall. "You're not dying today. We've got too much left to build. But I love you too, Cole. Now go, and come back to us." He kissed her long and deep, memorizing the feel of her, the taste of her, the realness of her. Then he walked out into the fading daylight. The clearing was exactly as he remembered. Open ground, scattered rocks, the burnt remains of Silas's old campfire. As Cole approached, he saw Kane's men positioned around the perimeter. Too many to be just 23. Kane had brought reinforcements, 30 men, maybe more. Cole kept walking, kept his hands visible, his pace steady. In the center of the clearing stood Victor Kane. He was not what Cole expected, not a rough outlaw, but a gentleman in appearance, fine clothes, groomed beard, cold, intelligent eyes. He looked like a businessman, which made him more dangerous, not less. "James Sterling," Kane said as Cole approached. "I've been looking for you for a long time. I've been looking for you too. Have you? I wondered if you even knew it was me who arranged your family's death. I'm pleased to see the mystery was solved." The casual admission, the lack of remorse, hit Cole like a fist. "Why did you do it?" "Business. You refused to sell me right of way through your Colorado territory. I needed that route. You were stubborn. So I eliminated the problem by eliminating what you cared about most. I thought you'd sell after that, or just give up. Instead, you disappeared. You killed my wife and daughter over right of way for a railroad. I killed them to make a point that no one refuses Victor Kane. Not you, not anyone." Kane smiled, a cold thing without warmth. "But then you vanished, and the point was somewhat diminished. Now, though, we can finish this properly." "Finish it how? You kill me, and you're surrounded by U.S. Marshals and Union veterans. You'll never leave this mountain. Perhaps, or perhaps I kill you and your people, lacking leadership, fall apart. We've been watching your preparations. 15 men, good fighters, but outnumbered 2-1. You should have watched closer." Kane's smile faltered slightly. "Meaning?" "Meaning you're the one who's surrounded." Cole raised his right hand, gave the signal. From the rocks, from the trees, from positions Kane's scouts had missed, rifles appeared. Not 15, 30. Webb had called in every favor, every connection. Veterans from 3 states had ridden through the night. Local ranchers who owed Cole kindness had taken positions. The territorial governor had sent a full company of militia. Kane was surrounded by 60 armed men, all with clear shots. The outlaw leader's expression shifted from confident to calculating. His hand moved toward his gun. "Don't," Cole said. "You draw and you die along with half your men before you clear leather. Or you surrender, face trial, and maybe some of your people walk away from this." Kane's men were looking around, seeing their predicament, their confidence evaporating. Several started lowering their weapons. "You think the law will hold me?" Kane sneered. "I have lawyers. I have money. I have influence. You have testimony. Silas Murdoch is cooperating. He has documents, bank records, letters, everything needed to prove you ordered the murder of Margaret and Clara Sterling. You'll hang, Kane. The only question is how many of your men die trying to save you." For a long moment, Kane stood frozen. Cole could see the calculation happening behind those cold eyes, the weighing of odds, the measuring of pride against survival. Then Kane's shoulders sagged slightly. "Very well played, Sterling. Very well played indeed." He raised his hands in surrender. But Cole had fought too many battles to trust an easy victory. He watched Kane's eyes, saw the moment of decision, the split second when pride trumped reason. Kane's hand snapped to his gun. Cole was faster, not because he drew a weapon he didn't have, but because he dove to the side, rolled, came up with a rock in his hand, and threw it with all his strength. The rock caught Kane in the temple. The gun fired, but the shot went wide. Kane stumbled, and before he could recover, three things happened simultaneously. Lena fired from her position, her bullet taking Kane in the shoulder. Webb's sharpshooters fired into the men reaching for weapons, dropping four in an instant. And Marshal Bryan's voice boomed across the clearing. "By order of the New Mexico Territorial Court, you are all under arrest. Drop your weapons." Kane's men, seeing their leader wounded and bleeding, seeing themselves hopelessly outgunned, began throwing down their weapons. A few tried to run and were tackled by militia members. Within minutes, it was over. Kane knelt on the ground, clutching his shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. Cole approached slowly, looked down at the man who had destroyed his first family and threatened his second. "You took everything from me once," Cole said. "My wife, my daughter, my peace. But you didn't take my life, and you didn't take my capacity to love again, to build again, to become something more than the man you tried to break." Kane spat blood. "This isn't over. I have powerful friends. I'll be free in 6 months." "No," Marshal Bryan said, stepping forward with chains. "You'll be in federal prison by next week. And if there's any justice in this territory, you'll swing within the year." As they chained Kane and led him away, Cole stood in the clearing feeling the weight of 3 years lift from his shoulders. Not all of it. The grief would always be there. Margaret and Clara were still gone. But the guilt, the helplessness, the feeling that he had failed them by not being there, that began to ease. He had not failed. He had been betrayed by a man who valued money over human life. And now that man would face justice. Lena appeared at his side, Eli in her arms. "It's over." "It's over," Cole agreed. She leaned against him, and he wrapped his arm around her, careful of the baby between them. They stood together, watching Kane's men be rounded up, watching justice be served, watching the sun set on the worst chapter of Cole's life. "What do we do now?" Lena asked. Cole looked at the ranch in the distance, at the new house they had built together, at the people who had come to stand with him. "Now we live," he said. "We build, we heal, we become the family we were meant to be." "No more running?" "No more running." They walked back to the ranch as the stars began to appear. Behind them, Webb's men were already breaking camp, preparing to escort the prisoners to Santa Fe. Tomorrow there would be statements to give, documents to sign, legal proceedings to begin. But tonight there was peace. 6 months later, spring had transformed the valley. The ranch had grown, not into an empire, but into a home. Cole had built an addition to the house, rooms for a growing family. He had planted fields, not for profit, but for sustenance. He had helped his neighbors build barns and homes, using the skills he had learned in his railroad days, but for different purposes now. Lena had opened a small school in what had been the storage shed. 6 children came daily, children of ranchers and farmers, learning to read and write in cipher. She taught with the patience of someone who understood what education meant for those who had been denied it. Eli was walking now, tottering around the house, getting into everything with the curiosity of all children his age. He called Cole Pa, without hesitation, without knowing any other father. On a warm afternoon in April, Cole stood on the porch watching Lena teach her students. She had cut her hair shorter, practical for the work she did. She wore trousers more often than dresses now, scandalizing some of the older folks in town but drawing admiration from the younger women. She saw him watching and smiled. That smile still caught him sometimes, still made his breath catch. Webb and his men had returned to their lives, but they visited often. A bond had formed in the battle, the kind of bond that does not break with distance. Several of the veterans had decided to settle in the area, drawn by the promise of land and community. The territory was changing, growing, becoming more civilized. The railroad Cole had once built was expanding, connecting distant settlements, bringing commerce and law. But Cole had no desire to return to that world. He had found something better here. That evening, after the students had gone home and Eli was asleep, Cole and Lena sat on the porch as they did most nights. She leaned against him, his arm around her shoulders, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and red. "I got a letter today," Lena said, "from the territorial court." "Oh." Kane's trial ended. He was convicted on all counts, sentenced to hang. Cole was quiet for a moment. He had expected this news but had not known how he would feel when it came. He searched inside himself for satisfaction, for a sense of justice served. What he found instead was something simpler. Closure. "Good," he said. "It's finished then. How do you feel?" "Like I can finally put them to rest." Margaret and Clara, they can rest now, knowing the man who killed them faced justice. Lena turned to look at him. "Do you think they'd approve? Of us? Of this life?" Cole had thought about this often. What Margaret would think of him loving again, of building a new family. He had no answers that felt certain, only hope. "I think they'd want me to be happy, to live, to love again." Margaret was never cruel. She would not want me to spend my life in mourning. "I think she'd be proud of you, of what you've built here, of the man you've become." "I'm the same man I always was." "No," Lena said gently. "You're better. You learned that strength is not in standing alone, that wealth is not in gold, that empire is not what a man leaves behind, but the lives he touches, the people he helps, the love he shares." Cole pulled her closer. "When did you become so wise?" "I learned from my teacher." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to appear. Then Lena spoke again, her voice soft. "Cole, there's something I need to tell you." The tone made him turn to look at her. "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air. Cole stared at her, processing, understanding, slowly dawning. A child. Their child. Not his and Margaret's. Not Lena and some terrible memory. Theirs. Together. A future made manifest. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure, 3 months along." He stood abruptly, pulled her up, held her carefully, mindfully of the life growing inside her. Lena, that's wonderful, that's..." He could not find words, so he simply held her, this woman who had walked into his life from fire and had brought light back into his darkness. "Are you happy?" she asked, her voice muffled against his chest. "I'm more than happy. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. I'm going to be a father again." The weight of that hit him. Another chance. Another opportunity to protect, to nurture, to raise a child in a world of love instead of fear. To do it right this time. To be present, to be careful, to be worthy of the gift. They stood together on the porch as the night deepened. Two people who had found each other in the worst circumstances and had chosen to build something beautiful from the ruins. The next morning, Cole rode into town. He had business to attend to, documents to sign, a future to secure. At the land office, he filed papers transferring most of his remaining fortune into trusts for schools, orphanages, and widows' funds throughout the territory. He kept enough to sustain the ranch and support his family, but the rest went to those who needed it more. At the general store, he bought supplies: cloth for baby clothes, wood for a cradle, books for Lena's school. Simple things, necessary things, things that meant life and growth and continuity. At the marshal's office, he signed the final documents related to Kane's trial. With his signature, that chapter of his life closed officially and completely. As he was leaving, Marshal Bryant called out to him, "Sterling, there's something you should know. The territorial governor wants to meet you. Talk about your ideas for education reform, women's property rights, Some of the things you've been advocating for. Cole shook his head. I'm not interested in politics. Not politics, reform, change. You've got influence whether you want it or not. You're James Sterling, the man who gave up an empire to build a better community. People listen to that kind of story. Let them listen to someone else. Bryant smiled. I figured you'd say that. But think about it. You don't have to go back to being a railroad baron to make a difference. Sometimes change comes from people willing to speak truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Cole promised to think about it, though his inclination was to refuse. He had no desire to be a public figure again. But as he rode home, he considered what Bryant had said. Maybe there was a way to help, to use his experience and resources without sacrificing the life he had built. Maybe influence did not have to mean empire. Maybe leadership could be quiet, local, focused on lifting up those around him rather than building monuments to himself. When he arrived home, Lena was waiting with news of her own. 2 more families want to send their children to the school, she said, excitement in her voice. And one of the mothers asked if I would teach her to read. She's 30 years old and never learned. Will you? Of course, but Cole, this is growing beyond what I can handle alone. I need help. Maybe another teacher or at least someone to watch the younger children while I work with the older ones. Cole thought about the money he had set aside, the resources still available to him. What if we built a real school? A proper building, not just a shed, with room for multiple teachers, different age groups, maybe even boarding for children from distant ranches who can't travel daily. Lena's eyes widened. That would cost. I have the money and I can't think of a better use for it. She threw her arms around him. You're serious? Completely. We'll hire teachers. We'll build dormitories. We'll create something that lasts, that helps, that makes a difference in ways that railroads and gold never could. They spent the evening planning, sketching ideas on paper, imagining a future where education was not a privilege but a right, where children from all backgrounds could learn and grow and become more than their circumstances demanded. As they worked, Eli played at their feet, stacking blocks and knocking them down, unaware that his future was being shaped by 2 people who had learned that love was not about possession, but about building something together, something that would outlast them both. 3 years passed. The school stood on a hill overlooking the valley, a 2-story building with room for 60 students. 3 teachers worked there, including Lena, who had become known throughout the territory as an advocate for women's education. The ranch had expanded modestly. Cole ran cattle and horses, provided employment for a dozen men, served as a gathering place for the community. He had been elected to the territorial council despite his protests, and had used the position to push through reforms in property law, education funding, and protection for women and children. But he was not James Sterling, the railroad magnate, anymore. He was simply Cole, the rancher who helped his neighbors, who built schools instead of empires, who measured wealth in community rather than coin. Eli was 9 years old now, tall for his age, smart and curious. He helped with the ranch work, attended his mother's school, and showed no memory of the fire that had almost killed him. His childhood was filled with safety, love, and the freedom to become whoever he chose to be. The baby Lena had been carrying was born healthy and strong, a daughter. They named her Clara Margaret, honoring the past while embracing the future. She was 3 now, following Eli everywhere, demanding to learn everything he learned, refusing to be left behind. On a summer evening, the family gathered on the porch as they had done countless times before. Eli and Clara played in the yard, chasing fireflies in the gathering dusk. Lena sat in the rocking chair, another child growing inside her, their third, due before winter. Cole stood at the porch rail, watching his children play, feeling the weight of contentment that still surprised him sometimes. What are you thinking? Lena asked. I'm thinking about how close I came to missing all this. If I had stayed in Denver, if I had let grief consume me, if I had not been in that forest the night your cabin burned. Fate, Lena said simply, or grace, or luck, or just the random confluence of circumstances that brings people together when they need each other most. Does it matter which? Cole considered. No, what matters is that it happened, that we found each other, that we chose to build rather than retreat. Eli ran up to the porch, breathless and excited. Pa, can we go fishing tomorrow, down at the creek? We can, but you'll need to finish your chores first. I will, I promise. The boy ran off, calling to his sister that they were going fishing. Lena watched them with a smile. He's so much like you, determined, protective of his sister, always thinking 3 steps ahead. He's better than me. He's growing up without the wounds I carried. That's the greatest gift we can give them, to break the cycle, to let them be children without fear. As darkness fell, they called the children inside. Clara protested, wanting to catch just one more firefly. Eli negotiated for an extra story at bedtime. The house filled with the comfortable noise of family, of life being lived fully and without reservation. Later, after the children were asleep, Cole and Lena stood in Clara's room, watching their daughter sleep. She looked so much like her mother, with Lena's dark hair and delicate features. Do you ever regret it? Lena asked quietly. Giving up everything you built before? Cole thought about Sterling and Sons Railroad, about the mansions and the wealth and the power he had once commanded, about the man he had been, driven and ambitious and convinced that success was measured in miles of track laid and contracts signed. Never, he said. That life cost me everything that mattered. This life, the one we built together, this is what I was meant for. Not building railroads, building a family, building a community, building a future where people like you are never trapped and children like Eli grow up free. They moved to their own room, the master bedroom Cole had built with extra care. Wide windows that let in morning light. A door that locked from the inside, something Lena had requested and Cole had understood the importance of. A space that was theirs, safe and private, and filled with the evidence of their shared life. As they prepared for bed, Lena paused, looking at herself in the mirror. Her body showed the marks of bearing children, of hard work, of a life fully lived. She traced the faint scars on her arms, the ones from the fire that had burned her first prison. I used to hate these scars, she said. They reminded me of everything Silas took from me. Cole came up behind her, placed his hands on her shoulders. And now I see them differently. They're proof I survived, proof I escaped, proof I was strong enough to walk through fire and come out on the other side. He kissed her shoulder, her neck, her cheek. You're the strongest person I know. She turned in his arms. We're strongest together. They held each other in the quiet of their room, two people who had found healing in partnership, who had built something lasting from the ashes of their separate tragedies. 5 years later, in the autumn of 1876, Cole sat by the fire with 9-year-old Eli on his lap. The boy was too big for this now, really, but he had asked to hear the story one more time, and Cole could never refuse. Tell me about the night you saved us, Eli said. Cole looked at his son, this boy who called him Pa, who had no memory of Silas, or the cabin, or the fire that had almost killed him, who knew only love and safety and the security of a home built on honesty and partnership. That wasn't the night I saved you, son, Cole said, his voice steady. That was the night you saved me. Eli frowned. I was a baby. How could I save you? By giving me a reason to stop running, by reminding me that life is not about what you've lost, but what you choose to build with what remains. Your mother and you showed me that home is not a place you hide. It's people you stand with. It's love you choose every day. It's building something worth protecting. But you did save us. From the fire, from Silas, from Cain. I protected you, but you saved me from something worse than any of those things. You saved me from dying inside, from giving up, from believing I had nothing left to live for. Eli was quiet, processing this. Then will you tell me how it began? Cole pulled his son closer. Lena emerged from the kitchen, Clara at her side, now 6 and already reading at a level beyond her years. The youngest, Thomas, was asleep upstairs, 3 years old and exhausting. Lena sat beside them and Clara climbed into her lap. The fire crackled. The family gathered close. And Cole began the story one more time. Northern New Mexico, October 1871. Your mother was running from a burning cabin. As he told the story, Cole looked around at the life he had built. The children listening with wide eyes. Lena holding Clara, one hand resting on her belly, where a fourth child grew. The home filled with love and laughter and safety. This was his empire now. Not railroads or gold or power, but family, community, Love freely given and freely returned. James Sterling, the railroad magnate, had died in that fire 5 years ago. From those ashes had risen Cole, a man who measured wealth not in dollars but in moments like this, in children who felt safe enough to ask questions, in a wife who trusted enough to share her life, in a community that thrived because people chose to help rather than compete. The story ended, as it always did, with Silas arrested and Cain brought to justice and a family beginning to heal. Eli asked if the story was true, all of it, even the scary parts. Every word, Cole assured him, and it taught me the most important lesson of my life, that the greatest fortune is not what you build for yourself, but what you build for others. That home is not walls and a roof, but the people you love enough to fight for. That a man's legacy is not his wealth, but the lives he touches and the love he shares. Eli thought about this seriously. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Cole smiled, ruffled his son's hair. Be better than me. Learn from my mistakes. Love freely. Build generously. Protect fiercely. But never ever believe that success is measured by anything other than the people who stand with you at the end of the day. As the children prepared for bed, Lena caught Cole's hand. You told it well. It's a good story. True stories usually are. Do you think they understand how close we came to losing everything? They understand what matters, that we fought for them, that we chose them, that love is not just a feeling but an action, a commitment, a daily choice to stand together no matter what comes. They stood at the window, watching the mountains disappear into darkness, the stars emerging overhead. Tomorrow there would be work to do, lessons to teach, a community to serve. But tonight there was peace. Cole thought about the man he had been, the man who had measured his worth in miles of railroad track and contracts signed. That man would have been proud of his empire, but would have died alone, surrounded by wealth but isolated from love. This man, the one who had chosen to build small but build well, who had invested in people rather than profit, who had learned that true strength was not in standing alone but in knowing when to accept help and when to offer it. This man had everything that mattered. I love you, he said to Lena, simple words that carried the weight of 5 years and a lifetime still to come. I love you too, she replied, now and always. They turned from the window and went to check on their sleeping children, to make sure the doors were locked and the fires were banked and the house was secure. Small rituals of family life, simple acts of love, and outside the mountain stood eternal, witnesses to the story of two people who had walked through fire and emerged not destroyed but refined, not broken but stronger, not alone but together. The millionaire's last stand had not been about gold or power or revenge. It had been about choosing life over death, love over isolation, building over hiding. And in the end, that choice had made all the difference.